We're live. Good evening, guys. How are you? My name is Dahada Lopez, the founder of Autism Sprinter. And guys, tonight is going to be epic, right? Because anybody who knows me and follows me know that I love me some mama kids that can rattle the cages of systems. And you're going to hear it here tonight because we're here with the powerhouses, y'all. My tribe. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Marion King, a member of SPEDWatch and the founder of SPEDWatch. Ellen, guys, this is gonna be epic because these are the real watchdogs, okay? So ladies, thank you for being here with me tonight. This is exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So much for having us.
So introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go first. A little bit about me. Oh my God. So I founded SPEDWatch. What do? I act as the founder of SPEDWatch. I do other things. I'm a special ed advocacy consultant. So I have private clients. I consult to a child serving agency down in Plymouth, State Community Services. I consult to them on matters concerning special education and the kids that they're supporting. And then I also am an educational guardian ad litem, not a surrogate parent, but a guardian ad litem, which is when the court, juvenile court, appoints someone to make educational decisions for a student that's before the court. Very often these are DCF care and protection matters, kids who are in DCF custody. So I'm like all over the place. And, you know, I've been doing that for 25 years, all told. Before that, I was a business person. So, but like everybody else listening, I had my whole career planned out. I went out, I got my English degree, I got my MBA degree, graduated with honors from Bentley University. Beautiful. Bought my briefcase, bought my suits, my power suits, went to Boston, had my daughter with autism, and everything flips upside down. So that's what I'm about. Marion?
Okay, so I didn't follow the same trajectory that Ellen did. I was working and I had my kids, and that's after I had my kids, I decided I needed to go to college. So I have two kids with disabilities, and while I raised them, I went to college. I graduated in 2015, and now my kids are adults and I'm in the working world, and I have more time now that they are, 19 and 22. I have more time now to devote to SPEDWatch. I've been involved all along, but I've been spending more time lately. And I'm really excited about where we're going. Additional involvement. We've just gotten, our website is about ready to launch. It's updated. So, I'm really excited about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Nice. So I have to ask, how did SPEDWatch come about?
Okay. This was it came about in an epiphany for me. What happened was I had been doing individual special ed advocacy cases, working for parents, going to meetings, and I came back from a meeting one day, and I can see it just like it happened yesterday. I can see my office, I can see myself sitting down in my chair and thinking, this system is insane. I realized, I said to myself, how is it that I am doing the same things today in my advocacy that I did 5 years ago and 10 years ago? It's the exact same problems. It doesn't matter what town. It doesn't matter whether it's a wealthy town or a poor town. It doesn't matter whether it's cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, language-based learning disorder, the same obstacles. time after time after time after time. And that was a moment for me. I said, I just can't continue doing this. I'm fixing things for one kid. That doesn't do anybody else any good. And then I started thinking more and more and thinking, gosh, if I needed an advocate to help me, I could not afford me. And that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
So that was June of 2005. I quit my job and spent the next 6 months just really, really thinking about, what needs to happen to change this. I asked I looked around and I said, Massachusetts has a great reputation for special ed. We have more parents.
So they say, right, Marion? Let's laugh at that. So they say.
Yes, I'm laughing.
So,
I'm laughing because I know the
yeah.
punchline.
Yeah. So, we have all these wonderful parent side attorneys. We have wonderful advocates. We have wonderful organizations that are doing tremendous things with litigation and training, and yet we're still stuck here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it took me a couple of months of thinking it over when I came to the conclusion that we were missing something really important in this equation, and that's the parents. Parents are not organized. I knew from talking to parents that we had hundreds of parents that I knew of personally all over the state, fighting like mad, putting out so much energy, fighting like mad, but nobody was connected. And all this energy is being wasted. And I thought, what would happen if we came together and we took that energy and we pointed it in a strategic direction? Whoa. And then the last part of it was, well, how is this organization going to approach this problem? And I settled on, this is just me, myself, and I, sitting in my room thinking about this 24/7, because it really, really was gnawing at me. And I said, you know what? I don't want to do something that somebody else is already doing. Don't want to do litigation. Don't want to do case advocacy. Don't want to do training necessarily. We need to do something different. I didn't want SPEDWatch to be seen as an organization that was trying to do something better than somebody else. What I wanted us to do was add to the good advocacy work that was already happening and bring something new to the table. And I decided that what we needed to do is use the strategy of nonviolent direct action. That is a strategy that has been proven through centuries of human history to be successful if it's executed well. So it's not a new strategy, but it's never been applied to special education rights. Then I found the scholarly work on nonviolent direct action. I read all of that. And but that's what it was. I just came to a point where all I could think was, this is just absolutely insane. The human misery that I was seeing, the wasted human potential, the misery, it was just, I couldn't walk away.
And I was one of those miserable parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that, Marion, because I know for me, I started Autism Sprinter because of that too. I used to work for the public school system. And when it was time for my son to navigate the public school system, I found myself saying, oh my goodness, I'm probably going to end up getting fired because I'm putting all this energy into other people's children, supporting other people's children, trying to teach parents of their power, understanding their rights, their laws. Meanwhile, my son is in a different school building with a teacher that was constantly out, and fair game, she was a lovely person. She had a child who had a disability. And when she was there, but unfortunately, she was out more than she was in. And so my son was just struggling and struggling and struggling. And I think the first year, I was trying to be empathetic and understanding that the teacher had a child with a disability. And then when we started the following school year, and a month into the school year started, it was back to the same old thing. And I'm like, pause. I said, guys, with all due respect. And that's when I was like, I can't do this. And I said, with all due respect, this teacher needs support. She needs to focus on her family and her child. Give her that opportunity, because what's happening now is that my son is missing out on his fate because you guys are not able to service him appropriately. You know, I'm coming here, picking him up. We have different substitutes. Half of them didn't even know what they were doing, right? They're retired, they just like thrown into a room. You know, you can tell they were stressed out because it was early ed, right? So my son was in 3-4 years old, you know, coming into the public school system. So I couldn't even imagine dealing with all of that, and then not, you know, having the proper tools to do my substitute work with children that maybe I didn't even work with in my career. So you talk to me, because I know I was one of those parents that I was in a very dark place when I removed myself from the public school system, because my boys were twins. One of them, they were born prematurely. They were actually both diagnosed with autism when we first started this journey. One of my sons made amazing gains, but didn't qualify for an IEP. Then later I found out that he could have still went in a 504 because he still had a diagnosis, right? So I learned so much stuff. So I would travel from one side of the city of Boston all the way to the south end, to like the borderline of downtown, to bring one of my sons to daycare, to then come back all the way to Dorchester to bring my other son to school. And I was, when I say miserable, depressed, and everything under I was in a very dark place.
This is an abusive system.
Yes, say it.
As parents.
Yes.
It does. You know, and what you just described is typical. It's not the exception. It's typical of what parents are still going through. And nobody, well, we're trying very hard to shine a light on it. That's part of why we exist. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or we're just chatting. Okay. So one of the things that SPEDWatch does that is really central to our mission and really, really important is we run this listserv. It is populated mostly by parents of varying degrees of skill in advocacy. There are some attorneys, there are some advocates, there are some teachers, there are some clinicians, and we have it's about 885 people on it now, most in Massachusetts, but we have, you know, 2 and 3 in like 34 other states, Australia and Canada. Marion, we just picked up Canada the other day. And what this listserv is really powerful. What you do is you can, as a parent or teacher or clinician, you can ask a question on the listserv. For example, let's use the one we just did a few minutes ago, Marion. Transportation. My school is telling me that my child doesn't qualify for transportation. You know, but I can't get in there. What do I do? What are my rights? Well, between Marion and I, we both talked, and a couple of other savvy parents, we got that lady all straightened out and ready to go.
Straightened out, please.
Straightened out. She knows what her rights are with regard to transportation. What do the laws say? You know, we'll tell you this is what you need to say to your SPED director. You need to say, you know, according to 603 CMR 28.04, whatever it is, that this, and people get their problems solved, their little problems solved, things like that can be fixed easily. This transportation
so
thing comes up big
that-
time during the summer.
In this particular topic, my go-to was to post a copy of the regulation, right?
Yes.
And some information about how to approach it with the school. Ellen
Right.
stepped in and said, well, my perspective is that you could do this with the school. And somebody else piped up and said, here's a copy of what's on my kid's IEP. Like, so all of a sudden, this person within an hour of posting their question has got 4 or 5 different people giving really important information.
Right.
And so the value is, it doesn't seem to exist anywhere else in Massachusetts.
That's right. There is no other listserv in Massachusetts where you can go to get straight answers to tough questions, not fluffy answers, not you should try to collaborate with your school district answers.
Partner, the parent partner. They tell us all this time, and with respect, I don't mind it. I feed into some of these sound bites, right? Because that's all they are, sound bites. Let's work together. We're a team together. But the reality is, as a parent, I've never felt like I was part of the team. I felt like I was only invited to the table because I am the parent sending tons of email. I'm jumping on my social media and I'm tagging the school district on my social media. I've even gone as far as joking, if I would have known some of my superintendent's parents, I probably would have tagged them on a post too. Like, can you please talk to your child because we have a problem here that they need to fix, And so, but it's true. It's parents have nowhere to go. And then we rely on each other because it feels like no one's listening, right? Yeah. And then we cross-reference information, and it's horrifying. It is an abusive system because it does something to you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as a parent. I should have never had to quit my job and put my career on hold to really make sure that my child was getting the help. And I'm all for let's work together. But at the same time, respect me and I will respect you equally if we really come to a healthy balance of you understanding that my child brings an extra few $1,000s to the school district to help you or help the school district meet his needs.
Yeah. My philosophy about this, well, let me just throw this in. Another beauty of this listserv is that it's a pipeline. A parent comes in as a new listserv member, doesn't know anything, may not even post anything, but he's reading and learning and gaining knowledge. And at some point when that person feels confident in their knowledge, they will start answering questions that are coming from a newer person. And so what we're getting is we're building a knowledge base among parents, and it's free. You don't have to go to an attorney and pay $300 an hour to get a question answered that you can put out on our listserv and get a decent answer. Now, we don't give out legal advice, all those disclaimers, but and another thing we do along the lines of helping parents is we have something called Advocacy Briefs, which this is where we take concepts in special education law, really important concepts like stay put, like transportation, like independent evaluations, like out of district placements, these core concepts that are really important for parents to understand. Stay put, yeah. And we boil it down into, we try to stay on one side of one 8.5 by 11 page. And
you're really good at that, Ellen.
Describe that concept in a way that you can understand it and use it. They're meant to be given to schools. You might have a parent get on the listserv saying, I don't really understand what effective progress means. and my school keeps saying that my child's making effective progress and therefore he doesn't need anything, you know, but this is his failing and and, you know, we say, well, this is what effective progress means. And here's the advocacy brief that explains it. And if you wish, you can copy this and hand it around at your team meeting. And it cites to the law. It's not lightweight, but it's in a manageable format. It's not, here's the regulation that's 10 pages long. You know, this is stay put. This is what it means. Here are the citations to the law or case law that backs this up, what I'm saying, you know, what we're saying in this document. It's one of those things where it's kind of like we didn't make up the law, we just happen to know what it is. And I'm sorry if that's upsetting to districts. It is.
And
You know
I
what?
think that
No, go ahead, Marion.
I was going to say that when you get to the table, when you're at an IEP meeting, as a parent, you're expected to accept anything that is told to you at face value. And those of us on the listserv with SPEDWatch know how to get past the kind of, oh, you know, he's effective progress. Yeah, that means that he's earning good grades, you know, or, you know, like it's a,
Or like
we
the
come
behavioral
into
spec
it.
director when we asked her.
Yes, yes. So we come into the meeting a little bit
No,
differently.
the director.
Yeah, and when and the challenge is that the SPED director is in charge of training the staff, and the SPED director only tells the staff what the SPED director wants the staff to know.
Yeah.
And teachers and special ed teachers and speech therapists and occupational therapists, they don't study advocacy, they don't study the law, and they just take whatever the SPED director or their principal or their superintendent provides them.
Mhm.
And so when we come in and say, actually, that's not how it's supposed to happen, they're just as surprised as anybody else that they have the wrong information.
Yeah.
But the SPED directors, it's their job to know what the law is. It's their job to know how to implement it. And so it becomes, you know, when the teachers and the service providers get a clue that they're getting incorrect information, they feel pressure to not share that information with others. And it becomes untenable for some people.
Yeah.
And you lose really good, important teachers when they get squashed by districts who don't want them to share their knowledge. And so everybody loses.
Yeah, everybody loses.
Everybody loses.
You know,
Marion, at one point you were saying that you were one of those parents. You were a parent who was so, you know, going through the misery of fighting against the system, right? So what do you talk to us a little bit about that and tell us, you know, about what are the most common complaints that you guys hear from parents?
I think
I thought about this.
Oh, please. Yeah, I'm Ellen's more organized in her.
Well, it's Marion. I've just been living it for 25 years. You know, I could actually go to bed right now and just. But anyway,
tell it in your sleep. I know
there aren't specific violations of law that trouble parents. It is the system itself, how it operates. Let me see. I'm going to look at my. It is the obstructive nature of the system, where a parent. The big question is, why do we have to fight? Why do we have to fight for what our child is already legally entitled to get? That's a big question. I can answer it, but it's a long answer. So when you ask, what are the common complaints? It really isn't about, you know, my school district always, you know, sends me my IEP late, or my school system, always misses the annual IEP meeting date. They never do it on time. It's not that type of thing. It's it's the experience of the system. It's things like parents who go out and spend thousands of dollars to get the best expert they can find to evaluate their child. And they wait 8 months to get the appointment, and they wait another 4 months to get the written report. And they spend $4,000, and then they finally get it, and they go into the team meeting, put the report on the table, beautiful report, and the school says, that's lovely. We don't happen to agree.
Yep.
It's this type of thing. It is parents being disrespected, talked down to at team meetings. That goes on a lot. School administrators are very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. So it's those types of things.
They're bullies sometimes.
Oh, they do. Oh, sure.
I felt bullied several times, and I'm typically a very vocal person. And if I'm silent in a room, it's a problem, because either someone said something that I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut because I'm probably gonna get in trouble. So I'm just and I'm like, yes, yes. And then you're letting it marinate so that when I get home, I'm sending you a nice little professional email of basically going to go kick rocks, because this is what I'm going to tell you just in a nice way, because I couldn't tell you when I was there. So
it might take me a day or two.
That's the kind of thing that comes up as a common complaint. It's complaints about how the system operates,
right,
more than specific violations of specific laws.
And it was designed in a way that put the responsibility for enforcement into the hands of parents.
That's correct.
There is no other system in our country that requires that level of involvement. I mean, if you look at the medical system, they have systems in place. So if something isn't being done properly, there's a system to address that. It's not that the patient has to jump through hoops and all of these things. If you have a problem with the driver, there's a system that and the system for special education is the parent makes an individual complaint about the individual child, and there's no one to say, how can we make the system work better?
Right. And that's another thing that SPEDWatch does. We have spent these many years really gathering evidence to prove that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is utterly useless. We have sent, I'm sorry, they are. We have sent.
No, being honest, it's true. It's true.
We have sent correspondence to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education with redacted documents from a school district showing them that there is systemic noncompliance going on in this school district, and we asked the department to address it. And as Marion said, their response is, have a parent file a complaint.
Yeah.
I don't have a parent to file a complaint, but I'm telling you that this is systemic. I'm giving you the evidence. They will not act on their knowledge of noncompliance system-wide.
And then also what they'll do is, these are one of the things that frustrate me, is that they'll hire a consultant, right?
Oh.
That comes in to tell them the same thing that another consultant told them a year ago, and the consultant the year before that told them. So if you look at a lot of these consultation reports, because I've been one of those parents, I was constantly at the school committee meetings, and I'm like, well, where's the reports? I want to see the consultation reports. And you're reviewing like few years worth of consultation reports or special education reports, and you're like, but they've been telling you guys the same thing for like 5-6 years. Why are we still having the same conversation? And then it gets flipped on parents. Well, not enough parents get involved. We don't have enough parents, it was biased. This person, you know, didn't get along with one of our staff members. And I'm like, so all of your private consultants had a problem with somebody in your school district or an administrator? So you're basically saying that this report was, yeah, it was done biasly. Like, it's just, yeah. And I mean, you're touching upon it, Ellen. So the role of SPEDWatch, what do you guys do in addressing these violations and bringing these awareness to this flawed system? Because we know it's flawed.
So in the context of nonviolent direct action, in the context of a civil rights movement, that's the context we operate in. First of all, we all have to understand that we are asking society to change in a way that they do not want to change. Under those circumstances, things don't get fixed in years or even decades. It takes a couple of generations. For example, you know, nobody, if I were to stand up and say, well, I really think, you know, we should have education for Black kids and education for white kids, that would be horrible. People would be, oh, what are you talking about? That's horrible. That's terrible. But there was a time not long ago when that was a societal norm that everyone accepted. My parents accepted it. My parents weren't bad people, but that's the way the world operated. So people have to understand that this context is, we're talking about generations, and that's why it's hard for a lot of parents to stick with it, because they want to fix it for their kid and then move on, you know, and it just isn't going to change as a system. It's not going to change. I tell people, SPEDWatch is starting this movement. There's no way I'm going to live to see it finish. If we're lucky, our children might see it finish, but probably our grandchildren. You have to accept that first. So what do we do to address this? We do the types of things, well, as a practical matter, when we discover a violation of the law and we can document it, because parents come to us and say, this is happening, and we say that's against the law. And, you know, we'll file a complaint if you can give us that document so that we can prove what we're filing about, and then nothing. Parents are afraid. So, but we do file complaints. I'm trying to think of some examples. Like right now, I'm having a knockdown, drag out fight with the Wareham special ed director. Truly, we're fighting in the press and it's great. But let me just be more general here. Part of the whole intent of nonviolent direct struggle is to shift the balance of power between the oppressed group and the oppressor. In our case, parents of students with disabilities and the people who control education. Right now, that balance of power is way out of whack. We need to bring that back. And again, generations, you do that by chipping away at the credibility of the oppressor, chipping away at their credibility by constantly calling them out, and wherever we can, calling them out on the front page of the Boston Globe. We've done that several times. And just, you know, you think of the educational system as a stone wall that's 6 feet thick. What we're doing is we are very slowly picking pebbles out. There's going to come a time when we hit critical mass here, and a section of the wall is going to crumble. It takes a long time. So everything we do is meant to chip away at the credibility of the system, to show the general public what really goes on, to stand up.
This past year, we've been very effective in showing multiple occasions of
If-
that happening.
Yeah, we've been in the Boston Globe 2-3 times. You know, when we started with the pandemic, we discovered this because our members tell us. We depend on our members. If our members don't tell us, we have no way of discovering what's going on out there. So the membership is everything. And so we found out school districts were asking parents to sign away their special education rights.
Yup, I remember that.
In order to have a virtual team meeting. Oh my. Okay. Well, we tracked down, I think, about 25 school districts. We filed complaints against 25 school districts. And now what are we doing here? We are certainly chipping away at the credibility of those particular school districts. We are making very uncomfortable the attorney that wrote that language and gave it to their client. Yeah.
The one, yep, that
we
were able to narrow it down.
Yeah, we're overloading the PRS system because we filed them. Boom, 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 boom. That, in terms of balance of power, that serves to very minutely, yes, but shift the balance of power a little bit. Now there's this group, SPEDWatch, and they're like, they don't go away. They just never stop. So we've gotten to the point. It used to be when a parent would call the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, they just wouldn't hear an answer. This will call back. Let me tell you, when SPEDWatch calls, DESE responds. We may not like how they respond, but they respond to us because they know that we'll take it to the street if we have to. And we have done protests. And those protests have changed things in certain districts. I'm thinking of Mansfield.
Yes.
But we have organized parents. We had parents in Reading came to us and said, you know, we can't deal with this Sped director. He's like, this guy's off the rails completely. And we said, well, look, if you're willing to work on this, we'll help you organize. The point being, we don't want to fix things for parents. We want to show them how to fix it for themselves, to gain the confidence that they need to go to the school committee and stand up and say, you know what, you guys are full of bull. And I can prove it.
Hey, and we gotta, you know what, and parents need to, I want to reiterate that it should be okay, because I think that sometimes we're made to feel that we're the bad guys, and when we come in that space with that energy, it's like they make us feel like we're the problem. But meanwhile, you know, I've emailed you 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 times on the same issue, and we still haven't moved past that email. So I'm not sure how much diplomatic I'm supposed to be when I'm coming to you and say, hey, listen, I think I've went through the whole chain of command. The service providers, you know, the principal, because they give you this whole, did you go through the chain of command? And I'm like, I wouldn't be here.
You know,
I didn't go through
have a problem going through the chain of command, but let me tell you, we're not going to have 2 months between each step. We're going to have a week. If I don't hear from the principal, I'm moving on. If the superintendent doesn't reply to me, I'm moving on. 1 week, that's it. Get out of the way. My kid's waiting.
Yep.
You have to have that. It's easy for me to say that because I'm in a different position. I have, you know, all kinds of self-confidence in doing what I'm doing. I know it's hard for others, but that's why we have the listserv. You come to the listserv and you say, I feel like I'm the bad person, and you have 800 people saying, no, 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 you're right, they're wrong. You get a lot of emotional support from the listserv, in addition to help with individual problems. You know, so
people are amazed when they find out that they're not really going through this alone.
It's wonderful. They'll write back and say, really? You mean I'm right? I say, yes, you are right. This is the regulation that you need to quote to the SPED director. If they choose to ignore the regulation and break the regulation and violate it, The only thing you can do is file a complaint. We'll help you file that complaint. We do that all the time. So we're out there organizing parents, you know, confronting. We've got Wareham going right now. So stupid. But this woman she is gunning for me. Let me tell you, it's really hysterical.
I'm jealous.
Her name is Melissa Fay, in case Melissa's out there.
You wouldn't be doing something right, Ellen, if you didn't have somebody who was gunning for you. It should let you know that you're doing something right.
Well, that's exactly true. You know, then you know that, because
That's right.
Part of nonviolent direct action is creating chaos, making it. I'm thinking of Martin Luther King's words, because I've really used his work in conceptualizing what we're doing. You know, but he said, here, I wrote it down somewhere, you know, somebody said to him, well, what is this nonviolent direct action that you're doing there, Marty? And, you know, what he said was, nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such tension that a community which has consistently refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to dramatize the issue so it can't be ignored. And he was being taken to task for doing his protest. And he said that we who engage in protest and nonviolent direct action, we are not creating the tension. The tension was already there. We're just bringing it out into the light where it can be dealt with. So a lot of what we do is meant to create that kind of discomfort and tension.
And you've done that very successfully in Wareham.
Yes, I have. I'll just tell you really quickly. It was, again, this language around you got to sign away your rights. How they kept using it, I don't know, but we discovered it. Why? Somebody told us. And we filed a complaint. SPEDWatch filed a complaint. And they got found out of compliance. DESI found them out of compliance. The SPED director went ballistic. She wrote a letter to parents. The thing is, the press picked it up. This is what started it. The local Wareham paper, Wareham Week or whatever it was, picked it up. We made friends with the editor. Okay, great. She's real interested in following this story. There will be more stories. But Melissa Fay, the SPED director, wrote a letter to parents shooting down this whole complaint, saying it was ridiculous. We fixed that language long ago. And then she blamed me, Ellen Chambers. You know, she said this was not a parent complaint. This was a complaint filed by an advocate who's looking to rile up parents and is looking for financial gain.
She put that on paper?
No, it wasn't in the paper. It was on her website. She posted a letter. So what did we do? We called the editor of the paper who wrote about it. She let me write a letter to the editor. So, and she published my letter to the editor and saying, you know, in fact, it was not filed by a person, it was filed by an organization. Well, she was also bitching about this person doesn't even represent anyone in Wareham. So I wrote a letter saying, actually, according to 34 CFR 300. Anybody can file a complaint, an organization can file a complaint. The fact that we do not have anyone in Wareham that we are specifically representing, the fact that we don't have our primary place of business in Wareham, in no way does that forfeit our right to make a complaint, according to, and then I address the issue about, you know, this has got nothing to do with financial gain. I filed the complaint, but I filed the complaint as SPEDWatch. I get no money for what I do. This has got nothing to do with financial gain. That went out in the paper. Plus there was another article about it. So now she's really pissed. So what do we do now? This is organizing. Now the Wareham is having a coordinated program review, a tiered focused monitoring audit. The regular audit that they get every few years. So DESE will come down and audit them for compliance with special education law. So now what we're trying to do is gather up Wareham parents and get them talking to us so that if we can identify areas of noncompliance that are systemic in the district so that when the state comes in to audit, there we are.
They'll find what's going wrong and not just
That's the problem.
skim
You have
over
to
it.
tell them what to look for.
Yes. Yeah,
When
because
you
they
can
will
see-
skim over it.
You can see how that would disquiet school administrators. And you know they talk to each other town to town.
Yes, they do.
They're
And
very
so,
connected to
you
each
know,
other.
Yeah.
We're putting ourselves out there as this is a force. This is a force of parents organizing. They thought we would fizzle out. When we first started this, we got a lot of bad press. People were saying, why are you doing this? What right do you have to rile up these parents for no good reason? But they didn't worry too much because they knew that we wouldn't last. Well, that was what, 14 years ago?
15 years ago?
So that's, you know, we are constantly in the face of administrators and as much as we possibly can in the press, showing what goes on.
I can tell you, like, I had a response to a request for records today that said, well, but we were not found out of compliance.
I don't care.
So, you know, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Well, go ahead and send me that document, please.
Right.
You know, they were trying to just tell me, no, we don't need to send that to you because we didn't break the law. That parent was wrong when they filed the complaint. And my response was, okay, let's see it. Let's see the decision by the Department of Ed. Give it, you know, give it up.
What we're doing to change this is to be present as a thorn in the side of the system. And we are all the while documenting how the system is dysfunctional. Yeah. And we just had a board meeting about this, and we're getting to a place now where we're getting ready to go to legislators to say to them, I don't know what the budget is for DESE, but you are spending a whole lot of money for no payback. The return on
You guys are
investment
gonna
is
rile up
zip.
the teachers unions and stuff. Woo! I'm gonna be watching this with my popcorn.
We tell it like it is.
Well, and I think the teachers union, it can be an ally for us.
Yeah.
It's the structure of the system and the administrative power that is being misused. The teachers are allies. The teachers want to do this just like the parents do. That's why they got into this, because they want things. Yeah, it's very difficult for the teachers.
Completely dysfunctional.
When they look at a parent's eyes and the parent is like begging for help, and that teacher knows what that kid needs, and that teacher knows that if they say what they need to say in order to get that kid what that kid needs, their own kids are going to be
retaliated against,
and their you know, mom or dad is going to be out of a job.
Yeah, that's right.
And I can say that honestly, when I worked in the public school system, that does happen.
Yeah.
If you, as an insider, and I think this is the reason why where I am today in this space is because I've seen it in the inside. If you bark too much, if you align yourself for the kids and your focus is the kids and the kids only, you know, they'll cut your job, right? Say that we lost funding. The next thing you know it, you'll jump on the school district website. They recreate the job, change the title, same job, just a different title to get in someone who's a yes ma'am or yes sir person, right? Yeah, and again, these are things that hurt hurt the school community, that hurt
Yes.
the work that needs to happen. Because as you guys know, post-pandemic, it's gonna be a mess.
It is going
Oh,
to be.
yeah.
It's going to be a
It's-
mess.
It's a mess now, and it's going to continue to be a mess. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I called Russell Johnston at the beginning of this whole pandemic. And I said, look, what you need to do here is just don't have a school year. Just stop for a minute. Just settle down for a minute. Stop. There is nothing that says the world is going to come to an end if we have a cohort of students who graduate in 13 or 14 years. The world will not come to an end. Rather than pressuring these kids, putting them in unwinnable situations, putting teachers in unwinnable situations, stressing everybody out to the max for no return, because the kids are not learning. They're not our kids. So I said, Russell, why don't you just pause the school year and spend that time
Strategizing.
righted, yeah, figuring out how to sort of come out of this. Well, see, that makes too much sense, and it's outside the box. Oh no, we have to have MCAS in March, and blah, 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 blah. No, you don't. You know, I take an 80-year view of things with, you know, I say, look at, you're thinking about just, you know, what's going to be going on with this kid while they're in the elementary school, and then they're going to go to the middle school and they're off your books. I'm thinking about what's going to happen to this kid 80
Over
years
life.
from now. What kind of life will they have lived if they have not learned to read? What we're
So-
doing today is affecting their entire life, their quality of life. And school administrators do not want to enter into that conversation at all.
Here was a conversation I had about 6 hours ago. I was on in a Zoom meeting with somebody from the Department of Ed and there were about 20 of us all together. And quite a few of the people on the Zoom call were special ed directors. And one of them said, we need to talk about getting a hold of eligibility because, you know, in Massachusetts, we have 20% of students found eligible, and this can't be right.
I have a follow-up to this. Yeah.
and not only that, she went on to say, and with the pandemic and the way that this has impacted the children, we really need to find a way to not find all of those children eligible for special education because they have, you know, some impact that's temporary from this COVID stuff. You know, she was all about closing the door.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them do.
Closing the door.
Oh,
That was
and
her
tech
main
directors
concern.
take trainings on how to block parents from getting to. They take trainings on that.
And they do
Yes.
it because they don't want their numbers to go down, you know, because we have that whole, you know, school
Yeah.
accountability. And I think that they do that to make sure that their numbers are good. I mean, I experienced that when my son was in the preschool program here in Randolph. We had moved from Boston here, and, you know, thank goodness for the IEP in Boston that stipulated a lot of the services. When we got here, first of all, I did not know that Randolph had a half-day program for the preschool program. Hot mess, which was in addition to why I had to quit my job, right? So thank goodness for the IEP in Boston. It literally saved my life that it was stipulated in the IEP that he needed a full day program. So I got by because of that, and they had to honor that IEP. So then finally, you know, we were able to do it. It was a little bit of a struggle, but I didn't back down. So then finally, when he was leaving sub-separate and into inclusion, you know, I'm like, okay, great, you know, ABA. And then something clicked in my head and I'm like, I've never seen ABA reports. Then I got hit with the whole, oh, we don't offer direct ABA here. And I was like, So all this time, you guys failed to tell me this.
Yeah.
And then everything that, when he got into kindergarten and inclusion, everything that they complained about was because they didn't give him ABA, right? So then I'm like, you guys please make it make sense. Like how would you guys go this long without telling me that you guys didn't? And then me being who I am, because I got kicked out of a whole bunch of community town Facebook groups, right? Because I'm like, this goes next, and then I'm tagging them, and I'm like, and then there's like, well, my family, and I'm like, I don't care, like that has nothing to do with your family. It's about rights, So I got kicked out of a lot of town groups or whatever. They call me the bad guy around here, and I'm constantly showing up and doing what I do. But
keep at it.
And then I went on social media. Other parents had ABA stipulated in their IEP. To then now they're asking questions. They're like, oh, well, we only do consultation model. I'm like, so then that needs to be stipulated in the IEP. You guys can't put ABA as a service and you're only doing consultation models. And then the reality is that the people that are doing the consultation models have to have a certain level of licensing, right? So what are we doing here? So then I had tons of parents messaging me, oh, I heard about you, I seen you at the school, kind of cussing somebody out and whatever. And I'm like, but parents shouldn't have to go through this. So I went literally 2 years, and that was my fault. And honestly, and it's also probably because I've always done things at home with my son, because, it was a point that even the SPED director, when he was in preschool, I would show her videos and pictures, and I'm like, oh, you guys say he can't do this, but at home he can do it. And, at one point she goes, well, maybe he doesn't need an IEP. And I was like, why me? Why me? Why is this lady trying me right now? I'm like, why are you trying me right now? Like, I'm just telling you that he can do it, which means that you guys should be working on him to elevate these skills. So you're telling me that because he can produce, now you're threatening me to take away his IEP.
Now you're one of those parents. We're not going to listen to you. All you do is rage.
Exactly.
Tune you out.
Yeah. It's
what all of that goes to what Marion said earlier about the burden of enforcing the law being laid on parents. This is a fundamental flaw in the system. And, people will say, I try to explain this to people. I use analogies all the time. I find it works best. I say my analogy would be about going into the hospital for a blood transfusion. If I go into the hospital for a blood transfusion and I get an infection, a blood infection, is that my fault because I did not take the time to read the regulations on the safe handling of blood products, and I did not remain vigilant during the procedure so that I could catch something that might be wrong? No, that's absurd. And that is because I, as a taxpayer, I pay money to an agency whose job it is to do that vigilance. When I get on an airplane to go somewhere and we have a problem, is that my fault? I didn't read up on that particular model of plane. I didn't understand what its safety record was. No, I pay someone to do that for me. The problem is parents do not have an agency to do oversight for them. That's why we're all going through what we're going through. And it's a real flaw.
And the agency that's supposed to do oversight in some fashion fails.
When they do go out monitor,
they
when
cover up for each other all the time. They cover up for each other all the time.
They're not designed to actually do oversight. They're designed to push papers around to make everything look good.
Yeah. So that is the type of issue that SPEDWatch, is likely to tackle. Go in to the legislature and say, look, we do not have an agency that is looking out for consumers of education in this state, and it needs to stop. And that we have been gathering data all these many years, so we can dump that on their desk and say, look at this, look at this. It's outrageous. It is outrageous to put this burden on parents when these parents already are working triple time because they've got kids with autism or this or that. And so we got to go to this therapy and that therapy and this school meeting and that school meeting. And the boss is getting pretty mad because we've taken off a lot of time this past month. That's the reality for parents. And the general public, has no clue, except, we're pushing as hard as we can to stay out in the media. We're also in the process of looking at building alliances with other organizations now. We coordinated with the Mental Health Legal Advisors Committee, and over this language that you have to give up your rights to everything if you want to have a virtual team meeting. We got them involved in that. And that escalated to the top of the Department of Ed. The attorneys from MLAC went and met with attorneys from the Department of Ed, and read them the Riot Act. And then the executive director of MLAC wrote a scathing letter to Jeff Riley. Scathing letter, insisting, we don't want a memo. You don't send a memo. You've got to do something about this. So what does that do? It's psychological warfare too. Now we've got Jeff Riley, who runs the whole shebang, aware of SPEDWatch and aware that we've got people on our side who are shoring us up. This is power.
Right, because
it's changing the balance of power. See?
Right. The MLAC statement that was published identified that it was SPEDWatch that gathered the information from parents and gathered the documentation from parents. And an MLAC's letter said, there's no reason to believe that this is not accurate. SPEDWatch is collecting accurate information and it needs to be acted upon.
And just the fact that we were partnered with MLAC for that piece. MLAC is not going to partner with a fly-by-night organization because their credibility rests on who they associate with. This is all nonviolent strategy. It's great stuff. And over time, the balance of power has shifted. It is minute. Again, we will not see the fruition of this movement, and that's okay. If we can just get it started, just get it underway, then you can close the lid on my casket, and I'm okay with that. Honestly, just
going out with a fight, man. We got to go out with a fight sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know that we're coming up on the hour. So what can we expect in the future of SPEDWatch? And how can we follow you and communicate with you guys to be part of that movement?
We have our website, we have a Facebook group, but the best thing, the one thing that people can do to help us gain more momentum is to join our organization. Just become a member. That puts you on the members only listserv, and we have become one voice louder. The way to join SPEDWatch, and it's free for now, the way to join SPEDWatch right now is just to send me personally an email saying, I want to join SPEDWatch. And then I'll send you back information about how to do that. And you'll be put on the membership list. You'll be put on the listserv. And you will be tapping into an incredible amount of knowledge and emotional support. That's the one thing people listening to this can do, is to join our organization. And a close second is, if you see anything happening in your school district or with, whether system-wide or with just your child, and you think it's not right, tell us. Tell us.
Tag them. So make sure you
Because
guys tag them on social media as well. So,
this is how
at
we found
SPEDWatch,
out
right?
about the language being used statewide,
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and we defeated that language that was put in place by a very expensive law firm. And you better believe those law firms know who we are. Again, chipping away credibility. What can you expect from us? You can expect that we're going to be in the press more and more. We are going to continue battering away, one violation at a time if we have to. But all that information is very helpful because we're bringing that to the State House to say, look, you're wasting your money. Wasting your money.
Yeah.
And
we continue to assist communities like Wareham.
Yes.
And in the past, we talked about Reading and Mansfield. Those were places where the parents, with our assistance, were able to organize, and ultimately in Reading and in Mansfield, their SPED director
decided to pursue other interests.
Yes. Moved on. And so it can make, things like that. Okay, there's another SPED director waiting to come in and take that position, but that SPED director sure as heck knows who SPEDWatch is too, and that there are parents in the community who are watching.
You have SPED packs who go to their SPED directors and say, oh, SPEDWatch does a basic rights training. We'd like to use that. They don't want us anywhere near any parents, so.
They don't even want parents to spend back anyway. I've served on the Randolph Sped Pack, and you're a casualty, man. It's just a way to check off the box and, to say that we've gotten the parents involved. And, I know last year, me and the president of CPAC here in Randolph went months asking them to do a training for Google Classroom for families, specifically for our special education parents. It was like crickets. And I knew it was stressful, and I know that they were trying to figure things out, but months. And then I'm like, wait, guys, please remind yourself that Randolph is a high immigrant community. A lot of our students are English. Well, their families are English language learners. So although the kids are here and they're assimilated, right? Their caretakers might not speak English. Okay, so where is the video that had it in different languages? And they literally waited. So I think it was like a week or two before the end of the school year. And I think we had about 75. No, that's a lie. About 25. That was the first meeting. And then another meeting, we had a good group of parents. But we had about 25 people in the Zoom. And all the parents kept saying, what took you so long? Meanwhile, me and the president, the president and I as the vice president, were made to feel like we were the bad guys because we were asking for a simple training. And it led to me saying, you know what, I'm going back to school anyway. I'm going to remove myself because I don't like to have a muzzle on my mouth. I don't like feeling like I can't say what I need to say because now you guys have me on SPED Pack or CPAC, and I may have to not say certain things. So I'm like, you know what, I don't want to be a political casualty. I don't want to be a school district's casualty. I just want to be able to have a voice at the table and be accepted, whether you guys what I'm conveying or not,
Many districts now, when the CPAC or the SPED Pack is active, someone from the district will attend every meeting and take notes and know who's there and know who's speaking up, and very quickly it dissolves. And parents have, because of the ease of developing something like a Facebook group. Parents have abandoned this the SPEDPAC and the CPAC format to have groups that are independent of the school district, and they are reaching out to each other and they're finding each other.
Right.
And so that, you know, that was not happening 15 years ago.
Direct action.
Yes.
That is
They
organizing.
There
wouldn't
wasn't
even
a
give us a
platform
Zoom.
for that.
They
Yeah,
didn't even give us access to a Zoom, and they're like, "Oh, well, the Zoom now," because I guess at one point Zoom was going over the 40 minutes. They're like, "Oh, well, temporarily," and I'm like, "But you know, am I supposed to pay out of pocket $100 and something for Zoom, right? For school, you know, this associated to here, not something personal for me." And they were like, "Oh, well, you know, we can't fund that," and I'm like, "So how are we supposed to do meetings? How are we supposed to," and you know, and as far as communicating, I'm like, is there a list that we can have to communicate with parents? And they're like, "Oh no, if you want us to send an out call or email, you send us what we need to send." And I'm like,
this system
It doesn't
does
happen.
not want parents finding each other.
Nope.
And organizing.
And it's so, and compared to where things were when I first came into the system, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can put up a Facebook notice on a town site and say, "Hey, special education parents, sign up for this Facebook group," and all of a sudden they've got 200-300 people.
The reasons I wanted to start SPEDWatch, because I realized at that time in 2005 there was nowhere parents could go to
That's right.
find each other.
That's right.
And there was no leadership
That's right.
to lead these parents in a direction that would begin to tip the balance of power ever so slightly with every little move we make. Like, I have fun trolling basic rights workshops. I like to sign up for them, especially if the SPED director is doing the presentation. And I ask questions. We just did this in Haverhill. Wait till you see it. We got to put it together. But we went to Haverhill. I asked, can you tell me, I'm just a stupid parent listening in. Can you tell me, what does effective progress really mean? The SPED director couldn't answer it. Can I get an independent evaluation in an area that you guys never evaluated in? She said, no, that's wrong. Can I get transportation for my kid to his summer services? Well, she didn't really know. She would need more information. That's wrong, because the answer is yes. So now we have on tape, captured for the whole world to see, how stupid this SPED director is and how she is leading an entire organization of special education, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
I think you give her too much credit, Ellen. I truly believe that the SPED directors know the law. I really do.
They do. I think that they act like they don't know because they probably can't cite it at that particular moment, or they don't want that information to get out.
They don't want the truth to be out there. They provide false information because it makes their job easier.
Yeah.
See, now this video of this Meet the SPED director is posted on Haverhill SPEDPAC website. Now we have to go to Haverhill and say, you might want to do something about this video because it's giving parents false information. And I think we'd like to write to the SPED director as well. Again, pick.
Yep.
Another pebble, another pebble, another pebble.
And I bet we could find lots of those videos on lots of websites now, because with this whole year with COVID.
Another exercise we could do is do a public records request for your special education procedural manual, if you have one in your district.
Mm-hmm.
You look at those manuals and they are full of illegal stuff.
Yeah. And
the DESE will never discover it because they never bothered to look at the manual when they do an audit, which is like, that's evidence of how useless the system is. So it all kind of comes together. You know,
Tell us where to find you guys, because I know, it's almost 8:30.
so
And I know
right,
we're getting a lot of comments, and I'm gonna make sure that I put, I'm watching it here on the phone, but we had a Luz Maria Perez who said that in a meeting, they said that my son is doing good. And when it comes to here it's all the opposite. So she gave an example. Oh yeah, he behaves well and listens and he eats well at school. And I'm like, I don't think so. He is all the way opposite at home. He would kick, bite, hit me, and don't listen. His behavior is very difficult. Also at school, they said, oh, he is eating and he doesn't eat. So again, I'm looking at a lot of the commenting here on our social media.
that's a question.
That comment thread. It's the misinformation.
That's a question for the listserv.
Mm.
So my email, if you want to join, you can send me an email, and my email is EM like Marie Chambers 123 at gmail.com. Our new website is www.spedwatch, SPEDWATCH, SPEDWatch, MA for Massachusetts, MA.org. MA because we hope in the future we'll be able to get into other states.
That's right.
SPEDWatch CT and SPEDWatch ME and SPEDWatch PA, because this goes on across the country. And my parting words to everybody is what I in my heart want to see happen, what I believe needs to see happen is we need to do away with special education. There should, is there Black education and white education? No, of course not. We have education for children. Why are we separating this from regular education? We should be educating children, period. There shouldn't be special education. Right there, you're in trouble.
And Ellen, my younger child, who's now 19, when she was 4, went to Head Start preschool. So 15 years ago, they had education at Head Start preschool. They did not have special education kids and regular education kids. They had kids, every single one of them had an individualized plan depending on what they needed. There was no separating them.
Yeah.
Their model is there. It's very simple.
That's the other thing. We know how to teach these kids. A lot of them are failing. We track MCAS scores over time. Oh my God, whole nother conversation. We know how to teach autistic children because we have schools out there who are doing it well. We need the public schools to learn from the experts. But it's a cultural thing. The public schools culturally are a very closed system. They do not want to put their hand up and say, we're stumped, we need help. They just let the kid fail.
Don't even tell the parent in the process.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is do away with special education, just like we did away with special education for Black kids, just like we did away with special education for girls. It was different for boys and girls. And at the time that was acceptable, no one would question it. What we're trying to do is change this conversation and move towards a day when you just put your child on the bus and you go to work and that's it.
You don't have to call out. You don't have to get 15 calls or emails.
Pay your taxes. You pay your taxes. Your child is properly educated. In terms of, laws, you have an agency that operates to ensure that the education laws are followed. This is so ridiculous that we even have to have this conversation. Like I said in the beginning, it's insane. This is an insane system.
Does that
Oh,
show up
that's-
backwards on the screen?
I see it and I typed it in the chat. So
Does
guys,
It looks backwards to me.
no,
No,
you,
I see it
you see
frontward.
it right. I see it right on Facebook too.
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
say thank you guys. You guys, I love me some troublemaker parents. I think it's
Good trouble.
That's us.
yes, good trouble. And I appreciate all the work that you do. And sign Autism Sprinter up. We definitely want to become members, and we want to help this movement.
Mhm.
Because the reality is, I'm a parent first before a founder, and all of this resonates with me. I have a lot of trauma, and I have a lot of a hard time trusting school districts.
Oh, yeah.
The PTSD is real.
Yeah,
It really is.
I don't I always struggle, and and like I always tell them, I'm like, listen, I'm not coming from a place of being mean. I'm just coming from a place of like needing clarity. I want to make sure that I'm clear, and it kind of sucks that I have to like say that, because I shouldn't have to say that as a parent, because I feel like, let them know that I'm coming from a good place. I just need things to be laid out to me. I don't want to talk in circles. I don't want to feel my emotions here. I just need you guys to do what you guys got to do, and I'm gonna do what I got to do as a parent. So I appreciate all the work that you do, and we are so honored to have you here, and we look forward to building with you guys.
Well,
You
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you so
guys.
much for reaching out to us.
Of course. I've been following you guys for a while. That's why I'm like, yes.
You'll hear about us in Wareham shortly. That's about to blow up.
I got to keep up on this story. All right, guys. Good
All right.
night.
Bye. Have a
you.
good evening.
Bye-bye.